Yeah, so it's music too early.
Studied dance, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so just like a few words from my side. So we worked with Stephan for a while on the innovation platform, and he will share his great experience of his company and how they overcome some difficulties in innovation. So this is a real innovation expert, like a live innovation expert. So you may ask a lot of questions. This is a professional company for doing innovation services, innovation booster. So meet Stephan again.
Thijs, thank you very much, and also thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you here today. It's an honor to be here. I just arrived yesterday, and it's my first time in Ukraine, and I have to say I'm very pleasantly surprised about how beautiful Kiev is. We had a short tour yesterday. It was really awesome, beautiful city. When I got home back to the hotel, the first thing I did was actually call my girlfriend and tell her we need to go to Kiev sometime soon. So I'll definitely be coming back. Today we'll be talking about how 1 + 1 makes 3. How a partnership between two companies can actually propel both companies' impact and effectivity forward. Before I deep dive into our partnership, I'll just give you a quick personal introduction. I'll also introduce my company, Innovation Booster, and what we do. And then I'll be sharing with you a use case for innovation, a client case that we have, something that we've done for one of our main clients for the last few years. And I'll be highlighting some of the learnings that we have obtained in working with that client, and how we hope that, or how we know that something like the innovation platform will help us overcome those pains, those challenges that we have encountered. So, like I said, my name is Stephan Lems. I'm a partner at Innovation Booster, and Innovation Booster does exactly what our name says we do. We boost innovation. We help corporates become more effective and more successful at innovation. A few of our clients, or few of the clients that I've personally worked with, are on the screen, and as you can see, there's many large international firms that we service, such as ING, Heineken, but there's also a wide array of clients that we service as well. So there's financial institutions, asset managers, there's also the producers of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. There's all sorts of stuff that we do, and the learnings I'm going to share with you today will really be something that we have encountered over and over again at each company that we visit and each company that we work for. So, a bit more about me. I'm 32 years old. I am from the Netherlands, born in Rotterdam, but I betrayed my city to move to Amsterdam. I've lived in over 11 different countries in my life. I've founded 4 different companies, and for the last 5 years, I've brought approximately 40 different innovations to the market. One of my own startups that I've had for a few years before I joined Innovation Booster was called Tante Beb. And Tante Beb, it means Aunt Beb. It was actually named after my aunt, who's named Bernie. But her nickname is Beb. And what we did is we delivered good quality food from, high quality restaurants to people's offices. So I'm not sure if you have it here, but there's many, it's been copied by, not necessarily copied, but it was done the same by Uber Eats, Foodora, Deliveroo. I ran that company for 3 years. We scaled it up into 3 different cities in the Netherlands before we actually sold it to an international takeaway company called takeaway.com. And the reason that I'm showing you this picture is because that startup has taught me something very valuable and something very important that I still apply in innovation today. And we actually apply it at such a scale that I am certain, or that I know, because our clients gave it back to us, that these 2 principles that I learned while running Tante Beb are actually something that make us more effective at doing innovation. So what you see here, this is the delivery scooter that we used to bring deliveries with. And of course, when you're starting up, you don't have a lot of money. So I was bringing the deliveries myself at the beginning. A few years later, though, when we started employing a lot of guys to drive our scooters and do the deliveries for us, we started noticing a few things because we were not doing the deliveries ourselves anymore. We noticed that we were not learning as much as we could. We were not getting a lot of customer feedback anymore. We were not able to critically and really observe the processes that we have. And that sort of gave us a disadvantage because we weren't being as agile and learning as fast as we possibly could. So that's actually one of the values that I still cherish today, is being pragmatic and making sure stuff gets done, and being on the forefront of innovation will always give you an edge over your competition. Second thing that we noticed, once we were employing more and more of these drivers, we had about 50 full-time people working for us at the time, is that we had a very high turnover. So these guys were driving around town, they had an app, and they could see where to pick up the next delivery and then bring it to an office and then go to the next restaurant. So there was very little commitment from these guys. So we had a very high turnover of staff at the beginning. And that was one of the other reasons why I got back onto the scooter and made sure that I made deliveries at least 2 or 3 times a week, even while we had 45, 50 people doing it for us, is that I wanted to spend time with these guys to build commitment with them. And more importantly, I wanted to make sure that these guys were having fun while being at work. And making sure that everybody was having fun and feeling committed to the company allowed us to keep them with the company longer, and they were also thinking in our best interest. And we were building good relationships with our employees. So these 2 values, being pragmatic and being fun, is something that we have implemented into the core of Innovation Booster. What do we do, you may ask? Well, we are specialists at making innovation work, by making innovation pragmatic and by making it fun. So being pragmatic in this sense, in corporate innovation, it means that you just need to get stuff done. You shouldn't focus too long. Of course, methodologies are there to help you through a process. But don't treat a methodology as a Bible or a commandment from the Bible that you have to follow each step meticulously. You have to get stuff done and be pragmatic in what you do. Second thing, innovation for me means change. And although a lot of people claim that they love and like innovation, people often don't like change. So people are very happy to start working at innovation projects until they personally have to change in how they do their work and how their work is being done and in how their company is working. So people don't like change. So how do you overcome people's fear of change? Well, by making it fun and by making sure that our projects are fun and that we have a lot of fun at work with our clients is making us very effective at innovation. So Innovation Booster was founded about 6 years ago. At this moment, we have offices in 3 different countries, one in Amsterdam, one in New York, and one in Athens, Greece. We employ about 60 different people in the Netherlands. We've worked with roughly 100 clients, and we have by now executed more than 200 different innovation projects. One of which I'll show you a bit later, what such a project entails or can entail. So what do we exactly have to offer? We made a distinction between 3 different buckets of value that we deliver to our clients. First one is business innovation. That's also how we started. So business innovation is something that we define as any type of innovation that adds to top or bottom line improvement. So really any innovation that makes the company more money. This can be launching new concepts, new business models, creating new processes, or whatsoever. What we soon discovered, if we only focus on business innovation, we give a very nice presentation at the end of the project, the client is very happy, but then they go back to their desks, they open the drawer, put the report in the drawer, and never think of it again. So that's not completely being effective because our innovations were often not executed and not implemented. So we came up with a second thing that we wanted to do, and that's called behavioral innovation. How do we change the behavior of people within an organization so that they become more innovative themselves? On a personal level, this means how do we help people overcome their fear of change? How do they work differently, but also how do they work together in a team? How do teams work together? How do departments work together? How do different silos or business units work together? These are all things that we include in our projects and always critically assess to ensure that we get maximum results. And the third thing is you can change whatever you like. You can innovate each and every product. If there's no cohesive strategy behind it, if you don't stipulate where to play or how to win, innovation becomes fruitless over time because you're just shooting from the hip and it's not a concentrated, aimed effort. So very quickly, we offer this. It's always a tailored thing that we offer to our clients, and we always focus on the core of the company to change that, to become more innovative. We use a variety of products and services that we do, and we always combine and mix and match a bit of what we do. So we organize accelerators, design sprints, hackathons. We come up with innovation strategy, change, etc. You name it, we do it as long as it helps companies be more innovative. One thing that I would like to highlight, because it will be important later on once we dive into what we've done for one of our clients, is the term business accelerator. An accelerator, I'm not sure if that is the same word that you guys use in Ukraine for this type of program. But an accelerator is a time-bound program where teams work on one challenge at a time for a specific period of time. So it gives them a lot of focus and a lot of speed in creating a new product or service or business model. So our methodology, very quickly, it's a combination of lean startup, design thinking, agile scrum. Now, I'm assuming and hoping that you'll know what this is. I believe later today we'll have something about service design, design thinking. So stay around and you'll hear all about design thinking later on. So on to our client case, ING. I am not sure if you have heard of the company ING. They're not active in Ukraine, but they're one of the larger banks in Europe, perhaps even in the world. They're a Dutch bank. They're active in, I believe, 15 European countries. Australia, China, US, they're large. Actually, they won a few awards for being the best bank in the world. So naturally, we are incredibly proud having worked with them. And before I dive into the case example, I'd just like to highlight one thing. We always work together with our clients. So these results that I'm going to show you now have been achieved together with the people from ING. And they're wonderful, very skilled, smart people working at ING. So I wanted to give him some credit as well. This is Ralph Hamers. He's arguably, at least in my opinion, one of the best CEOs the world has ever seen, or well, ever seen. At least I think he's very good. And he made a famous quote a few years ago. If we don't change now, we don't exist anymore in 5 years' time. He saw a surge of fintechs coming up. He saw big tech. Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google, all moving into the domain of traditional banks, offering Apple Pay, offering new services. So he saw this as a threat. And on the other end, he was also being attacked by, well, attacked is maybe a bit of a big word, but he was also attacked by governments and by the EU. Because from 2008 onwards, banks are strictly regulated within the EU. So their room of play and their room to innovate has increasingly decreased. So he saw this coming, and the reason he made this quote is that because he wanted to pave the way for innovation within ING. So their company ambition was to become the most innovative bank in the world, which is quite an ambition, of course, and a lot needs to happen to become the most innovative bank in the world. So what was the challenge? They needed to transform the way that ING works in order for them to create better, more innovative products, and they wanted to do that on a worldwide scale. So what was that for us? What did that mean? What is the project's goal? It was to embed expertise in each business unit of ING worldwide. Now, how we did that was by organizing a variety of innovation programs. But the most dominant program that we actually ran in all business units was called an accelerator, the one I just explained a few slides ago. So we organized these accelerators, and while these teams were working on their innovations, we started noticing how a bank could become more innovative. So we were seeing roadblocks for these innovation teams. And every time we saw a roadblock for an innovation team, we took it away. So by doing that, we made the bank more and more capable of innovating on a daily basis. So in the different accelerators, me personally, for example, I was responsible for transforming Spain. And in Spain, I organized 3 different accelerators. And each accelerator had 4 teams working in it full-time, each consisting out of 4 to 6 people that had never innovated before. So the approach was, we had a dual approach. On the one hand, we wanted to make sure that the team was getting a business success, so getting business innovation done. On the other hand, we wanted to educate them so that once they were done with the accelerator, they could apply the methodology and the way of working themselves when they went back into the business unit, back into the normal flow of innovation or normal flow of doing things. So this was one of the challenges. Typical challenge, this was one of the typical challenges that we worked on. So ING saw an opportunity for helping beginning investors making their first investment. As you can imagine, when people invest, they make an investment and a bank makes a bit of money from that transaction. Beginning investors have a lot of questions because they're gambling with their savings, so they need a lot of support. But obviously, when you make your first investment, you want to make a small investment because you don't want to throw away all your savings at once. You want to make some room for mistakes. So there's very little money to be made for banks in getting these beginning investors on board. And there's very little time from a cost perspective of spending personal time in coaching these people in making their first investments. So that was our company challenge, or our challenge for the Innovation Accelerator, is how can we create a scalable, cost-efficient way to assist beginning investors in making their first investment decisions. So in 16 weeks' time, we went from problem identification and validation, so we spoke to many people that wanted to make their first investment, into building a prototype that helped them overcome these challenges. We tested that prototype and we made sure that prototype was working. We also validated the market need for it, so I heard some question, how do you validate your market segment or market size? Well, we did various experiments to validate that. And we came up with a plan to make this idea a reality, to build it, to bring it to market and to market it over time and perhaps even scale it up to different markets. So that was a result within 16 weeks. At the end of the 16 weeks, the team pitches to Dragon's Den, and the Dragon's Den then either gives an investment or shoots it down, and the team, well, they don't get the investment. Second example is the onboarding flow for new clients. One of the things that ING saw was that only 8% of people that start the registration procedure to become a client actually finish it. So this was a bit more of a narrow scope, but within a 6-week period of time, within the innovation team, we identified 3 different areas of improvement on the onboarding flow. We tested the solution, and within 6 weeks' time, we noticed that we could actually elevate it from 8% to 16%, which is a huge elevation, of course. And more importantly, if you think about it, Czech Republic is quite a small country. I think it's about the size of Kiev. But it's the learnings here were actually also implemented in other countries of ING. And these 4 countries, France, Italy, Spain, and Czech Republic, had a combined marketing budget of about 200 million. So that's doubling the ROI of 200 million, which is quite a huge impact. And just goes to show that bringing a new methodology to an existing problem that a lot of people have worked on can sometimes open up new doors and really bring innovative impact to such a challenge. So these are 2 examples of things that have taken place within accelerators. Now, just to give you a bit of an insight into the size of this program, this was done in 14 different countries. There were 45 accelerators with approximately 139 initiatives. So think of the 2 initiatives I just explained and multiply that by 70. And that's how many innovations were brought to market or developed. There were 500 accelerator participants, so these were people that could now go back into their normal way of working and start using these methodologies to make everything in their work and life better. And thirdly, we trained approximately 5,000 people on the methodology. So the scope was huge. It was a big program. It's one of our bigger programs, and we are incredibly proud of it. But there's a lot to learn from such a program. And these learnings, I just want to make certain these are not exclusive or only to ING. These learnings are what we have learned at all our different clients. So these are recurring learnings that we have over time. And these learnings are some learnings that we have tried to overcome ourselves, but have not necessarily that we haven't necessarily done yet. So one of the learnings, and I'm sure that you recognize that feeling when you have a question and you are 100% sure that someone or somewhere in the company there's an answer to your question, but you just cannot find it. Well, this happens very often in innovation. We run into this often. And innovation teams, there's a lot of tooling nowadays for innovation. There's Unbounce, there's Usability Hub, there's all sorts of tools that you can use to quickly launch experiments. And they're great. And there's also many tools to log your learnings, to store your learnings, to store your data. What happens over time is the average team uses up to about 10 to 12 different applications or tools to run the innovation program. What happens, though, is that all these lessons that these teams learn are scattered over a huge array of platforms and apps. And if you think about a corporate and how it works, a corporate can run innovations at scale. A startup can usually only try one innovation, and then they're either successful or they're out. A large company can do this over and over again, so their learning potential is huge. Now, what happens is, because their learnings are scattered over all these different platforms, teams cannot learn from the mistakes that other people made because they simply don't know where the data is stored and where the data is. So this is a huge problem, and a lot of lessons are learned twice. It happens, where you go over and over again running the same types of experiments, and that's a waste of time and a waste of resources. Second one, I think also, this is of course an IT conference. You guys all work in IT, I assume. And I'm sure you know that feeling. You've talked to someone in the business, they explain a challenge, they probably have some sort of solution lined up for the sort of thing that they're looking for, and then you go out and you build it. You do what you think they need, and you do what they explain to you. Only to find out that a few months later, you guys were not fully aligned on what you were actually meaning. And this happens in IT. It especially happens in innovation, because innovation often is vague, especially at the beginning. Innovation is about understanding something new and looking for new challenges. So what happens is there's a lot of misalignment between organizations or within organizations. Teams that misunderstand each other, people within teams that misunderstand each other, teams that don't understand the challenge the sponsor had given them. Sponsors that don't fully select challenges that are not fully aligned with the strategy. So what happens is that this misalignment leads to a lot of wasted time. Sometimes teams, after 8 weeks of developing an innovation, are told that they need to cut their innovation, that their innovation is not in line with the strategy anymore. So they've wasted 8 weeks' time. And more importantly, they've wasted all their energy and they've wasted all their motivation in doing innovation. So this is a problem. The misalignment throughout organizations leads to a lot of wasted resources. Then another issue that we often encounter, innovation is about finding the new and proving new concepts to be right. Innovation teams themselves often don't know if they're successful or not. And teams, they often pivot, they come up with new solutions, go into a different direction, and it's very difficult to keep track of what these innovations are leading to. But innovation is incredibly important in any organization's strategy. Any organization needs to innovate to become relevant or stay relevant over time. So what happens is sometimes there's 6 months where an innovation is being worked out by a team and nobody knows about it. And in another business unit, the exact same challenge is being started up again. And resources, again, are wasted. And more importantly, a CEO doesn't know what direction his company is going through. So the limited overview on innovation makes portfolio management absolutely impossible sometimes. Now let's dive into our partnership, because these 3 lessons are something that we've learned. You know, these are the kind of lessons you're executing a program and project perfectly, or so you think, only to find out at the end that you've wasted a few resources along the way. Now, this is something that we already realized a few years ago, these lessons. And we've been working to try to solve them. However, we've not necessarily been successful in solving them. So we were working with subpar solutions to these challenges. Luckily, in February 2018, we were introduced by one of our clients, Euler Hermes, which is a credit insurance company, and apparently they're in the same office as SoftServe in London. So it was quite a coincidence. They ran into each other, and we were introduced to them. So it was February 2018. Chris and Taros came to our office. I wasn't completely sure on what that meeting was going to be about. I just heard, like, well, these guys, they said you should meet. So I figured, like, hey, let's meet. You know, we're nice guys. Or we try to be nice guys. So let's meet. If you say we should meet, we meet. And they started talking about the innovation platform. And I thought, this innovation platform, what is it exactly? And they gave us these handouts, and I started reading it, and it had a few promises on it. So an amazing idea management system. Prototype your ideas fast. And by fast, I mean really, really fast. Remarkable tool to collect and unify feedback. I'm not going to read it all, but these promises, they sounded like something we needed. Especially if you think about our challenges. An amazing idea management system, misalignment throughout organizations. Hey, it sounds like that could actually solve our problems. So we were enthusiastic. This was February 2018, and by March 2018, we decided to embark on a partnership. But a partnership is not something that we do that often, in all honesty. Before we go into a partnership, we want to make sure that we are good partners. And there's a few elements for us that are incredibly important in being good partners. So it's a shared vision. And we knew that from the start that we were aiming to solve the same problems. We've been trying to solve, but we couldn't. So that's why we needed SoftServe, to have complementary skills within both companies. At the same time, we realized that we also had a skill that SoftServe does not necessarily have, because we operate at the core of a company. We change companies from the inside out to become more innovative. And that is the perfect condition to implement new solutions and implement a solution such as the innovation platform. Thirdly, there's a willingness to cooperate, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to our office. And thirdly, interdependence. If one party is dependent on the other party, and that party B, is not dependent on party A, you're not partners, you're actually a client and a supplier. So we needed each other to make it a success. So we figured, hey, this could be a very good partnership. So things went fast from there. And in March 2018, we actually landed our first 2 clients. So we thought. So Alliander, it's a company in the Netherlands that manages the power and gas grid, wanted to run a large-scale ideation program. They had 7,000 employees, also wanted all their clients to be able to give their input. So it seemed like the perfect use case. Ortec Finance, it's a different company. They build complex algorithms for financial institutions. And these guys wanted to cooperate. Of course, these are not the only 2 companies we pitched to. We pitched it to quite a few companies, actually. So it all seems like everything went well, right? Got off to a great start. Got 2 clients. Got 2 clients fixed. It almost seemed to be too good to be true, and it turns out it was. We ran soon into some challenges in selling and implementing it. Now, we had taken a look at the innovation platform. We fully understood what it needed to do, and we fully understood what sort of pains we could solve for our clients with it. Problem is, not necessarily each and every client views that the same way, because it took us years to come up with these learnings that we have over running innovation programs at scale. So these learnings and these needs that companies have to share insights, to log all data in a central place, to do their portfolio management well, these insights are not something that are easily shared by clients. So in essence, we were solving a latent need, and a latent need means that it's a need of which people don't understand they have it until it's too late. So that's one of the challenges we soon had. However, we were still able to pitch this quite easily and quite well. People were buying it, so there was something there. We could overcome it. However, innovation managers often perfectly understand what they're trying to do. However, the people working from a day-to-day basis on these innovations, they don't necessarily experience these pains. What they do experience are many tools, like Unbounce, where you can literally launch a website within two minutes. It's fast, it's easy, and for them it's an easy way to work. And they didn't understand the long-term perspective that was necessary and why it was necessary to use the innovation platform. So we had some challenges in getting users on board. It took quite a while. Thirdly, IT requirements. When working with a new platform, you run into requirements that are enforced by IT. So one of our clients, Adecco, we wanted to implement it, and I think they sent a list of requirements of about 8 pages long. Now, I called Taras, and he was extremely supportive in accommodating all these requirements, and it fulfilled all requirements, so there was no problem there. Problem was, our business sponsor had, by that moment, already backed out. She said, like, well, if we're going to go into all this with IT, we don't want to do it anymore. We'll start off with something else, make it easier. We're in a rush. So that was also a bit of an obstacle. Thirdly is timing. Our time to market, or the time it takes us to land a client for Innovation Booster and get started, is quite long. It takes about 9 years, sometimes even up to a year. So although we still had many clients that were interested in starting it, they hadn't started innovating yet. So it took us a while to get that on board as well. So last summer we had a very good discussion. Taras and me, it was beginning of the summer, and I talked about our challenges and how we found it, how we experienced some challenges in implementing it. And Taras and his team are incredibly hard workers, and since then we have appointed a small team from our side, Alje and Charlotte, that are there to gather feedback from all our employees each and every day. And there's Taras and Victoria that are working relentlessly together with the other 38 people in the team, just making small minor changes so that it's easier for us to implement it. Now, this process started a few months ago. And I have to say, we have really intensified the working together with SoftServe. And I'm very glad, before I finish off this speech, I'm very glad to be able to announce that actually last week we started our first pilot. So that's great. So we started the pilot with a company called Blue Sky Group. They've been wanting to be a client for quite a while, but they need to get the teams ready. So last Monday we actually started. They're making their first progress. All the usernames have been made this week, so we're very happy. And we have 8 more pitches planned the coming weeks. December, Taras and me are going to Romania to pitch to one of our clients there. So we have full faith in this partnership, and we are very, very anxious to get our challenges solved by using the innovation platform. So, thank you very much.
So, questions from the audience?
I think I went a bit over time, so not sure. A little bit?
Oh, there you go, 5 minutes for questions.
Okay, 5 minutes for questions, good.
Hello. Tell me a bit more about how the PACE innovation methodology works, please.
The PACE innovation methodology.
Yeah,
sure.
I get the idea, but how does it work? So people get together, what kind of people? C-level management or just product managers together with developers? How they work together?
Well, first and foremost, the PACE methodology consists out of 5 steps. So there's the exploration phase. From the exploration phase, you explore your challenge. Then you move into the problem fit phase, where you look at you apply design thinking methodology to identify your customers' needs and a problem that you can solve that they're willing to pay for. Third stage is a solution fit, where you create your solution and test whether it solves that problem perfectly. Fourth phase is the market fit phase, where you identify and look what your best strategy is to go to market. Last phase is the scaling up phase. And the scaling up phase is not something that we necessarily did in an accelerator, because the product needed to be built first. Now, as you can hear, there's many different angles that you need to accommodate during this process, because you go from market research to building and testing your solution. So we often build, or we always build, multidisciplinary teams. And dependent on what your challenge looks like, there's developers in there, there's designers in there, there's product managers in there, there's business intelligence people in there. It really depends on the type of challenge that we have, how we form the team, but it's always multidisciplinary. And it's always people that have actual skills. So, well, actual hard skills. So not necessarily managers, but people with actual skills that can do the work that's necessary.
Is it the same as research and development teams?
Yeah, could be, yeah. But we often do it with people that work in the business themselves, because we want to change the organization as a whole.
So you just work with them together.
Yeah, we work
to innovate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another question, and there are a few questions on the board.
Thank you. Could you share some screenshots of this product, of this innovation platform? The first question. And the second, could you tell us a little bit more about ideas management system?
I think that's
so just
maybe for you to answer.
you can Google it with like software innovation platform to get more information about the system, and that's probably answering the question quickly. And there are a few questions from the board.
So, is there any early indicators that innovation will fill? Now, innovation, of course, from a product perspective, like the actual innovations, yes, there's many indicators. If you run experiments, we always run as many experiments as we can to validate an actual customer need. So the very first indicator is if we build, for example, a landing page where we pretend to sell the actual product, and we bring a lot of people to that page and we see that there's no conversion, then that's a very good indicator that it will fill. So we try to, before we build anything, we always try to prove that it works without actually building it. We always think, how can we get started today for as little money as possible, and how can we test and validate that there's an actual need? So we actually look for these early indicators, and we try to prove that our idea is wrong, only to find out that it does work, and sometimes it doesn't work. You have to be very honest. From a corporate perspective, corporate innovation, changing your company to be more innovative, that sometimes fails as well, and there's good indicators for that as well. And it has to do with time allocated by people, challenges, management, what sort of vision, what sort of strategy they have. There's many indicators.
Yeah, probably the last question from this side is, how do you measure and predict the impact of innovation?
Well, like I just said, it's part strategy. So we do market research. We look how large is a customer segment in potential. How much money is being spent at this moment to solve the customer problem. So what alternatives are they using and how much money are they spending on it? You always want to be a little bit cheaper or much, much better at solving the problem, and then you can ask for a premium price. So there's some desk research being done for that, but we always get our hands dirty. So we try to build a store. We literally sometimes go to physical stores as well to sell products which don't necessarily exist yet. So we worked with a soft drinks company to develop new flavors of soft drink. And we were focused on the packaging. How does it look on the outside? So we made dummy packaging, filled it with all their soft drinks, and put it in an actual store to see whether people actually bought it. So we really do those things. We do it digitally and we do it offline as well. And of course, once people grab it and go to the cash register to pay for it, we tell them it's just an experiment, so it doesn't exist yet. But that gives us very good insight into what the actual market value is of a new product or service.
Yeah, probably we'll run out of time, but there is last question. ING, if you can answer it really quick.
Well, what kind of challenge didn't they face? There's been many challenges, but they can always be overcome. And these challenges can be overcome only if your top-level management truly believes in innovation. And that's actually why I showed you this slide. Their commitment is an absolute necessity for long-term success. If top-level management does not believe in innovation and does not support innovation, you will fail. But if they do support innovation, then you can overcome pretty much any challenge there is.
Okay, thank you, Stephan.
Cool.
So we have a short break. So let's.